Hey, I'm Randy, and you're watching The Cheap Audio Man. Here at The Cheap Audio Man, we talk about high-value, hi-fi, home theater, headphones, DACs, amps, turntables, just about anything that makes music. And today, where is it? Today, we're talking about a new product, the SMSL SU9N. What does the N stand for? I don't know. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and let's talk about the SMSL SU9N. Today's sponsors, Sith Audio's old pennies. Some people think they're not worth anything anymore, and I've even caught my kids throwing them away. That's right, throwing away money. But Sith Audio's bringing back the penny. That's why they've introduced the audiophile penny. They're a limited run. This one is from 2018. They don't make them like they used to. This thing seems like it's falling apart. Sith Audio audiophile pennies. Don't throw away your money anymore. They're $1.12 a piece. But they're worth it. Audiophile pennies. Hold on. Heads or tails? Tails. SMSL SU9N. So what is it and why should you care about it when there's already an SU9 out there? And these are DACs. DACs, digital analog converters, which means it takes a digital signal from your computer, your television, your CD player, anything that has a digital output, and it makes it into lovely analog music, which you send to an amplifier, then to your speakers, and into your ear holes, or a headphone amplifier into your headphones, into your ear holes, and it makes you happy. It makes your brain happy because now the digital ones and zeros become melodic notes that float around your head. Maybe make some dopamine get released because the music is moving you. So SU9, SU9N, why do you care? Well, because it's cheaper than the SU9. The SU9N, $400, $399. SU9, $460. So why is it $60 less? Like 15% less? Well, because they got rid of MQA. And the N, I'm making this up in my head, the N stands for no MQA, no thank you, not gonna happen. Nope. I'm just kidding. I don't know what the N stands for, but it doesn't have MQA. It doesn't have the highest level of Bluetooth, the UAT technology, which is pretty cool in theory, but in practice, I don't know of any devices out there that actually operate on UAT with the exception of a Bluetooth receiver. I don't know any transmitters that transmit UAT. Supposedly, Android phones are going to transmit UAT. And what is UAT? It's basically a better codec. So think of LDAC. Now we're one step above, and supposedly the throughput can be 1200 megabits per second, which is basically CD quality. But again, I looked, and it's not like I did an exhaustive search, but I searched for probably 20 to 30 minutes to try to find if there are any phones or tablets out there that actually transmit UAT. Couldn't find one. So the loss of UAT from the Bluetooth perspective isn't really that big of a deal because I don't think we're there yet as far as phones and devices that can actually transmit it anyway. What else is different? Well, the processors are a little bit different. We're going from a 16 core down to an 8 core, and it has a different clock. I think this is a very important product. So regardless of all of how it sounds, what it does, the inputs, outputs, I feel like we're finally getting to a point where MQA is not that big of a deal anymore, and I'm glad. I have no horse in this race as far as MQA. I have Tidal, I've listened to Tidal, it's fine, it's great, but it doesn't move the needle enough for me to forego Amazon Music or Qobuz or even Spotify, really. The thing that concerned me the most about this latest crop of DACs is MQA was always in these DACs. And I'm no mathematician, but I did a video on the number of subscribers to all these different music streaming services. Tidal is in third place by a pretty significant margin. Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. Then way down the line is Tidal. And even if all the audiophiles that I know are enthusiasts that stream a lot of music, even if all of them were into Tidal and MQA, it still wouldn't move the needle enough to have MQA in all of these DACs. So I think it's pretty cool that SMSL is bucking the trend on some of their higher end DACs now. And this is a higher end DAC at $400. I think it's cool that there's no MQA included, because I feel, or I felt, like the tail was wagging the dog for a long time, because most people don't care about MQA. And I would say a lot of audiophiles don't even care about MQA. I don't want to get into the discussion or the debate as to whether MQA is a scam. It doesn't matter. It doesn't move the needle for me. My favorite DAC of all time is the Denafreps Aries 2, and you better believe that thing doesn't have MQA. Don't want to beat a dead horse here. SU9N, no MQA. And I say, good for you, SMSL. So I compared this directly to the SMSL SU8S, which is a $360 DAC, so $40 cheaper. Different chipset. This has the 9038 Pro Sabre chips. The SMSL SU8S, I believe, had the 9068 AS chips. They look identical, and I'll show you a picture. As far as width and height, they are identical. But if you look at them from the side, the SU9N is a bit deeper. What do they have in there? I don't know, because I didn't open it up. But if they have a bigger enclosure, this one's also heavier too. If you have a bigger enclosure, chances are there's some magic electronics equipment stuffed in there to make it better. Does it sound better? Oh, well, we'll talk about that. But on the back, it's very similar, identical. So the only difference is the SU9N, a little bit deeper than the SU8S. On the back, from left to right, you have your power cord receptacle, and the power supply in here is shielded. So it makes it sound better, in theory. I don't know. It sounds good. Then you have the Bluetooth antenna. Remember, we're foregoing the UAT, which doesn't really matter because I don't know of any devices that can transmit UAT. Anyway, full-size optical, full-size USB, full-size coax. You have balanced in, or balanced outs, excuse me, balanced outs, and then RCA outs as well. On the front, it is pretty clean. You have a screen, and you have knob, which is also the selector switch. And I will say, I just did a video on the Topping E50. I like that DAC. At its price of $270, I think it's pretty good and kind of sets the bar. However, if I lose the remote control, I'm kind of hosed, because there is nothing on the front that allows me to actuate anything. Not so on the SMSL SU9N. You have your button here. So turny, turny, pushy, pushy, clicky, clicky. You can do anything you want on here, and you don't need the remote for everything. But they do have a remote, and it's a new remote. So it's not the ubiquitous remote control that every Topping and SMSL product comes with. It's a little bit different. Kind of the same. It's kind of the same build quality, but it's different, and it works just fine. Further differentiation from the SU8S. I like the SU8S because it has 3 different roll-off modes, filters, things like that, and 10 different sound modes. There is a total of 30 different combinations that you can tailor towards your taste for how it sounds. The SU9N has 8 roll-off modes and the same 10 sound color modes. No mathematician again, but I think that's 80. 80 different combinations that you can tailor towards your taste for your music. 80! Did I try all 80? No. I tried one. Actually, I tried the standard roll-off, and then I did go through, they have a warm version, and then 3 warms, 3 tubes, 3 crystalline, and then a standard. I did go through the titch of a difference, but I didn't hardcore listen to it. There is a little bit of a difference within the roll-offs as well. There's a brick wall. I did notice a difference when I put it on the brick wall filter, but they sound more similar than they sound different. But there is differences in there, and if one is so inclined, They have 80 different ways that they can listen to their music through the SMSL SU9N. N stands for no thank you. Title? Just kidding. I don't know. I think it's a funny joke though. So let's talk about how it sounds compared to the SU8S. This is smoother. And at this point, I've listened to a few DACs. And this latest generation of DACs coming out of China from SMSL and topping are all moving to a more complete sound. And when I say complete, I mean it doesn't sound artificial. A lot of the older stuff from even a year ago or even 6 months ago had a tendency to be a bit analytical and thin. I kept finding myself trying to thicken up the sound. And one can do that on SU8S if you get into the sound color modes and things like that. But out of the box, the SU9N sounded a lot fuller, a lot smoother, less harsh than the SU8S, and very similar to the Schkitt Bifrost 2, to the topping D90 SE, to the Geshelli Labs J2, to the topping E50. So these DACs are all starting to sound better, in my opinion. There's been a sea change with the way these DACs sound, and I believe it is for the better. They're more full, they're less likely to have digital sheen or artifacting or anything else that could be negatively associated with digital music. This also has a variable D jitter. Now the SU8S had the same thing. So if you have a TV hooked up into this, you can adjust it depending upon what the source is and depending upon how many issues that it may have with jitter. Jitter is just digital ickiness. You don't want a lot of jitter. You want to get rid of it. And with the SU9N, one has more power to reduce jitter. I tested the SMSL SU9N on the new Harmonic Dyne Poseidons, which have a Kickstarter going on right now, depending upon when you watch this video. Could be over, but as of right now, as of when this video posts, there's still a Kickstarter for the Harmonic Dyne Poseidon, which is a great headphone. I really enjoyed it. So I listened to that. I listened to the Focal Allegias. And I listened to this through the SMSL DA9, which is a speaker amp, with the ELAC debut reference speakers. The good thing about this DAC is that if you have an overly bright amplifier, overly bright speaker, overly bright headphone, it's going to calm them down a bit. If you have a neutral amplifier, neutral speaker, etc., it's going to bring up a little bit of smooth low end. I wish I had a deeper voice, smooth low end, but I don't. So smoother, less harsh details, but details still remain. So once again, we are going to talk about synergy and what it is that you want to add or take away. If you have a thin system or a thin amplifier, this is going to be a very nice addition. What are some examples of thin amplifiers? Pretty much any Class D amplifiers except for the SMSL DA9 and the SVS Soundbase. Anything other than that is coming out of China could benefit from this, because a lot of those amplifiers, including the Crown Drive Core amps and even the NADC 338, could all benefit from this because it's going to add a bit of the missing butter on the bottom. This adds a little bit more butter. Who doesn't like butter? Butter really goes good with anything, especially if you let it sit out, get to be room temperature, get some banana bread that's about a day old, because you let the moisture kind of come back into the banana bread. Take that really room temperature butter, just spread it on there, down the hatch. That's what this is like. It's like room temperature warm butter on day old banana bread. Oh, and that's good. Or zucchini bread. Never had zucchini bread. Really yummy. So you have the SU8S. Is this a big enough upgrade to look at? I would say, is it an upgrade? It can be, but it's different. This has a bit of a different sound signature. Again, this sounds more like a Geshelli J2. It sounds like a topping E50, but this one's a little bit better than the topping E50. Has controls, all that good stuff, and Bluetooth. This sounds like the Schkit Bifrost 2. This sounds like the topping D90 SE. As far as soundstage and imaging goes, I think this does a bit of a better job than the D90 SE, but not quite as good of a job as the Geshelli Labs J2. Kind of in the middle. I'm glad that this is a bit wider, because one of the things about these great measuring DACs out of China, a lot of times they don't have great soundstage. Some of the DACs that don't measure as well have way better soundstage. Geshelli Labs J2, Denafrips Aries 2, Schkit Bifrost 2. Their soundstage is just better, and maybe that's due to second order harmonics. Maybe it's due from the DACs not measuring as well. This is starting to strike a balance between fantastic measurements, but also width and depth of soundstage. And I will say, on headphones, this had a very deep soundstage, one of which I hadn't heard before, and I didn't hear that on the SU8S. Different sound though. So these are really, even though they look the same, the SU8S and the SU9N don't sound the same. They don't sound stage the same either. Personally, I prefer this. SU8S is still great. Still a little bit more analytical. Doesn't have the harshness, but this is smoother. Smoother. Kind of sounds like vinyl with a decent cartridge going through a decent phono preamp. Reminiscent to that. DACs are getting very good, and SMSL and topping are really moving in a direction that I like. There is such a stark contrast between this and the topping E30, the Sanskrit Mark 10, whatever it is. Now, granted, those are a lot less expensive DACs, but overall the whole crop of DACs is moving in a great direction. And at $400, now don't go running out and buying this if you already got something that you like. Don't feel compelled like you need to get this. But if you're in the market, this is a great option if you don't have the budget for a Bifrost 2 or have the budget for a Denafrips, and especially the D90 SE. I can't recommend the topping D90 SE when stuff like this exists and stuff like the topping E50 exists. Fantastic if you like the sound signature. If you want a more analytical sound signature, you can get it from this, but you're going to have to dig into those filter modes and those different sound color modes. All in all, highly recommended if you're in this budget range and you want a smoother presentation. Very good. And you don't need MQA. Okay. So if you want to support the channel, you can sign up for Patreon. Patreon.com/cheapaudio. Man, every Sunday night we have Patreon-only Zooms. We also have a Patreon-only Facebook group. You can also use my affiliate links. If you click on them and you buy something through them, I will get a commission. Now, I don't know if this is going to be on Amazon because I just got this, and I think there you can get it on some places right now, but this is a very new product. You can also sign up for Amazon Music HD for free. Click on the link, sign up, you get 3 or 4 months for free. I get a couple of bucks. You can always cancel if you don't like it. And Amazon Music is the cheapest way to get high-res music. It's $7. It's $10 if you're not Prime member. If you're a Prime member, it's $7. So don't binge watch anything on Netflix or Hulu. Binge listen maybe through your new SMSL SU9N. No MQA. Fill your soul with happiness. And with that, I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man.